It's the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You are Locked On Cardinals, your daily Arizona Cardinals podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Getting it going here on a Friday edition of Locked On Cardinals, brought to you by Locked On Fantasy Football. Yeah, it's coming, man. It's coming. Hopefully you're gearing up for your fantasy football draft. Do that with Locked On Fantasy Football. Winning your league starts with the right data. Vinny Iyer of the Sporting News provides you with the edge you need in your fantasy football leagues. Locked On Fantasy Football is the daily podcast all year round for your fantasy team, and it never fails. Subscribe to Locked On Fantasy. And the news broke right before we cracked the mics. Looks like HBO is going for the easy ratings grab and tabbing America's team, its 2021 Hard Knocks squad that they're going to follow through training camp. It's Bo Brack. Give me a follow on Twitter at BOBRECK. Alex Clancy at Clancy's Corner. And Johnny Venerable joins us as he does every Friday from Revenge of the Birds at Johnny Venerable. Johnny, what's up, man?
Hey, gentlemen. Thanks for having me.
So, also, I should note that we had a great time last night with Joseph on the Cardinal Rule YouTube stream last night, Alex, and Joseph dropped some knowledge on us. I was actually kind of, throughout the stream, he had some little nuggets that I was like, wow, I didn't even know that. We talk about the Cardinals on a daily basis.
Yeah, no, it was a good time. Good time. Broke down all the position groups Bo mentioned. It was, it's always nice to keep it in the family, keep it in the Cardinals media family. And we're switching to Johnny today, and it's good. It's always fun.
It's absolutely great to celebrate Cardinals content. Anybody that's talking about the Cardinals, we want to talk to you guys. That's why we do every Friday with one of the best at it, Johnny Venerable. And Christian Kirk spoke to Good Morning Football the other day. He had some interesting comments about his, contract year. He spoke about Larry Fitzgerald. We'll get into the Fitz conversation. If Fitz comes back, where does Larry Fitzgerald fit in? I want to get into that convo a little bit because it's a little bit more of a crowded wide receiver room, more so than it was last year. So we'll get into Larry legend, and maybe we'll look back at some of our favorite moments. And then Alex was kind of piggybacking our conversation last night about position groups, about maybe the Arizona Cardinals safety room and how it stacks up against the rest of the division, because it's a very talented, very deep safety NFC West. But the news came out. HBO just goes chalk. We have to see Jerry Jones. I'm wondering this time, because it's the third season. They've probably run out of storylines already. Are they going to get old geriatric Jerry Jones on some water skis? Is he going to actually jump a shark in this season of Hard Knocks? Because we've seen it all at this point.
I mean, here's the thing. They have 5 primetime games this year, which is about right for one of the most meddling teams that we've seen over the last 25 years. Them being on Hard Knocks is like putting sugar on your ice cream. It's like, what? It's too much. Unfortunately, though, this team may be the most dynamically storyline-wise that we've seen. Dak Prescott coming off the compound fracture, Ezekiel Elliott kind of a forgotten guy, and you have the trio of wide receivers, and their defense is supposed to be an upgrade from last year. It wouldn't be very difficult for that to happen. But still, I mean, we see him enough. I think this is complete overkill. Even if it weren't the Cardinals, I just think the Cowboys, I don't care. We see him enough.
Yeah, I know you guys probably don't follow the superhero world, right? Follow me where I'm going with this. So the HBO Max released that Snyder Cut, right? That Justice League Snyder Cut, and shelved out hundreds of millions of dollars to redo that, and they took a bath on it. It did not perform well. So I have a conspiracy theory that they need to make their money back in ratings, and so they went with their cash cow with the Dallas Cowboys. And with all due respect to Cardinal Nation, this is something that has to probably be earned over time. The Cardinals brand is not a top-tier brand, and they're looking to put on the best television show. So while you and I would love to watch the Cardinals and Kyler Murray and Cliff Kingsbury on Hard Knocks, the general public, that's probably not what they're looking for. And while, I regurgitate the thought of, another year of, Dak Prescott, middling Cowboys, Jerry Jones strutting around, Mike McCarthy. Nobody wants to watch him, right?
No.
But they have the gravitas that Arizona just doesn't have. I mean, I was looking at some information the other day online, social media presence for the Arizona Cardinals, right? And that gives you kind of a pulse of young people.
Sure.
The Phoenix Suns, an NBA team, right? And, with all due respect, they're in the NBA Finals. Phenomenal year. But I think they had a point where they had 9 straight losing seasons. They have more Twitter followers than the Arizona Cardinals. The Cardinals have not broached 1 million Twitter followers yet. The Suns now have 1.3 million. And that is a direct pulse of young people and who they're tuning into. And what is Hard Knocks? You're trying to get eyeballs on it, streaming-wise, right? Well, if the Cardinals don't have 1 million Twitter followers, and you're HBO Max, and you're looking at it, you're an executive team, and you're like, who can we bring in to bring in some hard ratings for us to get the train moving, especially after the Snyder Cut was a disaster? It's probably not going to be the Arizona Cardinals.
So the Arizona Cardinals are paying the price for Zack Snyder not being able to direct the DC film and the DC universe falling horribly short of the Marvel universe. Is that what we're talking about here? Can
you tell it's early July? We're grasping for headlines.
Yeah, exactly. But I just, it's like the HBO Hard Knocks Dallas Cowboys it's the sitcom. It's the Will and Grace. It's the Friends. It's like where if you watch it and you're like, it's a fun show, whatever. You realize it's popular, but as far as are you going to tab it as one of your favorite shows of all time? Like there's different options, especially now, like where you could binge like something fantastic like Ozarks, like a diamond in the rough that isn't going to be on network television. That's not going to be shoved down your throat. The Dallas Cowboys are Friends. That's basically who they are. Like it's okay, right? They haven't done anything for a long time, but they're still going to be popular enough to where they can do a ratings grab. They're going to absolutely do it. I'm just glad it's not Quincy Carter anymore. I think Dak Prescott at least has a little bit more, it's going to be worth watching. But at the same time, I'll watch Liv Schreiber. If he's going to narrate somebody folding laundry, I'll watch and listen to it. He's probably the best in the game.
Yeah. Ray Donovan, nothing to leave your hat at either. I think that the NFL missed it here because they had the opportunity to raise the floor for another team. Johnny, I agree. Obviously, the Cardinals are probably the antithesis of the Dallas Cowboys when it comes to following, especially because Phoenix is turning more and more into Vegas with the transplant, a nature of who lives here, because nobody wants to move to California because it's too expensive. So not necessarily the Cardinals, maybe the Broncos, who have a good following. There were some other teams that you definitely could have just raised the floor of excitement, interest in ahead of the 2021 season, where the Cowboys don't need training wheels. They just don't need it. Like, sure, it'll be intriguing, but you're going to get so much of it. You watch First Take, it's going to be the Cowboys every day to kick off the show. Every day. Was Dak worth the money? Every single day when the season starts. So during these slow periods, even though I get that when it comes down to it, it's got to be ratings, they missed it. It's overkill.
Yeah.
It's overkill.
I will agree. Chris Gregory, we just brought a graphic on screen that says the best way to raise profile is Super Bowl wins. I mean, it is essentially earned in the NFL if you have recognition. Now, there are some people like the Dallas Cowboys where your market is just so huge and your history in the early 90s is so transcendent, you can conceivably live off that for the next 30 plus years, right? But I mean, I hate to use this example, but I mean, the Seattle Seahawks are in a market size very comparable to what the Cardinals are in, maybe a little bit bigger, right? And they're buried kind of in the Pacific Northwest. And you've got, the Niners are up there. It could be very easy for San Francisco to be irrelevant. But every year, they're on national TV a handful of times because they win, right? They were on a trajectory after the Sean Alexander years with Matt Hasselbeck of ineptitude. They had a top 5 pick. Remember, they spent a pick on Aaron Curry. Pete Carroll gets there. They're 7-9, 7-9. They could have easily taken a nosedive and gone into irrelevance. But they had stability at quarterback finally, at head coach. Clearly, John Schneider pulled the right kind of strings in terms of personnel, and they've earned this. And the Cardinals can conceivably do the same. And when the Cardinals were humming with Bruce Arians and Carson Palmer, they got selected for an Amazon series. They were on national TV games. consistently. Monday Night Football, Sunday Night Football. So I can get the frustration. Of course, I want the access, right? I want the unfilteredness. I love what the team site does. That's great, but a lot of that's just fluff to pump up, players that otherwise, we don't get a great view at. This is a scenario in which if the Cardinals rattle off 3 straight 10-win-plus win seasons, they will be the belle of the ball once again. Quite frankly, I think they're a great watch. They're one of the best watches in the NFL in terms of the games on Sundays. But my wife's friends, for instance, they don't know who Byron Murphy is yet, right? They don't know who Chase Edmonds is yet. They don't know that DJ Humphries is slowly becoming a top-tier left tackle. The general public knows who Amari Cooper is. They know who Zeke is. And, of course, Dak Prescott. And even some of their lesser-tier talents, like I would much rather have Isaiah Simmons coming into this year than Jalen Smith, their inside linebacker. But, again, the gravitas of the Cowboys, it's, the Cardinals can't compete with that. It was always going to be tough.
It's undeniable, no doubt about it. But and it also, with this little part of it, if the Arizona Cardinals make the playoffs, they're not going to be eligible next year. It's this was an opportunity. If they're up for Hard Knocks next year, probably not rooting for it as much as I was this season. I think they're on the cusp of something special. I thought it could have maybe helped a guy like Cliff Kingsbury change the narrative around him if people could kind of get a glimpse of why the players love K2. But we won't get that. We won't. But now they can focus. A lot of people didn't want Hard Knocks. As much as, I'm a guy pounding the table for it, a lot of people see it as kind of a negative and something that can be a distraction. And, when was the last time a Hard Knocks team really did anything and made a true run in the postseason? I see your point there. And now the Arizona Cardinals don't necessarily have to deal with that. Talk about players that are kind of under the radar as far as from the national perspective. Christian Kirk, he enters his 4th season. He talked to Good Morning Football the other day, what he said, how he's gearing up for year 4, and what he said about his mentor, his friend, Larry Fitzgerald. Any ideas if Larry's coming back? We'll get into that. It's Locked On Cardinals. Bo Brack, Alex Clancy, Johnny Venerable from Revenge of the Birds. We march on right after this. Bet Online, the fastest, easiest way to bet on all your sports action. Baseball season in full swing. You can track all the action on Bet Online. Get all the latest news, odds, and info for your sporting needs, including Major League Baseball, NBA, NHL, and all your UFC MMA action. Before the next pitch, head over to Bet Online on your laptop, your cell, and check out all the great sporting news, sign-up bonuses, and contest information. Don't sit on the sidelines anymore. This is your chance to get in the game as your team makes its run in the playoffs, Suns in the finals. Get in, build your stack with the Suns. Get ready for football season. Head to the website, betonline.ag. Use your cell. Sign up today. Receive a 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Bet Online, your online sportsbook experts. We see you there, Giraffe Sports in History, saying he's the only Connecticut Cardinals fan. We appreciate it. Everybody that tunes in to this podcast listens.
Aren't you a Patriots fan?
Huh?
Why, if you're living in Connecticut, I need an explanation on that. Why you're not a Patriots fan? You were gifted 20 years of relevancy. I don't get it. I appreciate it though.
The Patriots are just filthy. They're just filthy and they're cheaters and they're hard to root for. Is your mics turned up? Bo Brack, Johnny Venerable, Alex Clancy. Johnny, what's going on? Revenge of the Birds. It's slow season, man. What are you talking about these days?
It is. We got a lot of good stuff. A lot of it's tying back to the Suns' success, and can the Cardinals emulate that? Got a phenomenal new writer writing for us that I'm sure you guys would love to connect with. Damien, who wrote an article about the importance of Dennis Gardeck. A lot of great screen captures talking about how if he bounces back from injury and returns to form, he's somebody that the general public, again, not familiar with, but could be a factor. So check out Damien's article on our site. But yeah, all of our writers do a phenomenal job, and we are gearing up for this fall, that's for sure.
Are you ready for this little fun fact that we learned last night? Speaking of Dennis Gardeck, Alex, you remember this? Joseph was mentioning that the Cardinal rule that if Dennis Gardeck had as many pass rush attempts as Hassan Reddick last year. He would have he was projected for 36.5 sacks. That's how efficient he was. 7.5 sacks in just under 80 pass rush attempts. Dennis Gardeck was historically efficient getting to the quarterback last year. The Arizona Cardinals are going to do it. But as far as their pass rush group this year, you have to be excited about it. Obviously, the addition of J.J. Watt, Chandler Jones coming back from the bicep injury, Marcus Golden back in the fold. Hopefully Josh Allen, as he enters, is it his third season out of Boston College? I think there was a lot of hype surrounding him coming into the league. He hasn't really tapped into that potential, but it'd be nice to see. Another guy entering his fourth season for the Arizona Cardinals, Christian Kirk. He talked to Good Morning Football the other day. He said all the right things. Everything you want to hear from a guy motivated, wants to help the team take the next step in this rebuild, get to the postseason, and also be more consistent. But he also mentioned, Alex and Johnny, that he doesn't know what his buddy Larry Fitzgerald is going to do. This is what he said, quote, "You never know with Fitzy. He's kind of taking his time, a little longer this year, but he's done it like this in the past where he takes his time and kind of does his own thing, and then he'll decide. So we'll see." I just haven't heard any true definitive answer or idea of whether or not Larry Fitzgerald's coming back. Anybody have any thoughts on this? Is anybody willing to go out on a limb? I think Alex is, on what Larry Legend's going to decide for the 2021 season.
I mean, Bo, it was, what did I say? Mid-March was the latest we had heard up until this point when he determined either mid-February, mid-March. I don't think it matters. You would love to have him back. Of course. Larry Fitzgerald wearing number 11 on Sundays for the Cardinals. Absolutely. But if he chooses to retire, the Cardinals are already set with what they're going to do. I mean, if Larry Fitzgerald's coming back, let's completely remove from Twitter, social media, talking about this. Larry Fitzgerald's going to play tight end for the Cardinals. Ain't going to happen. Okay. I brought it up in February as a joke. And then we started having conversations about it. Okay, that's not going to happen. Number one. Number two, Larry Fitzgerald would most likely be wide receiver 4A or wide receiver 5, depending on snaps. I mean, I'm assuming Rondale Moore, if healthy, is going to be on the field a lot. And you have Christian Kirk, who's going to be on the field a lot in 4 wide receiver sets, especially if they don't have a damn tight end come week 1 that's a pass-catching tight end. AJ Green's going to get a lot more targets than you think he will at this point. He could average between 7 and 10 targets a game because there's such a black hole in talent from the wide receiver room, not named DeAndre Hopkins. So would I like to see him back? Sure. Do I think he's going to come back? No. Does it matter to me really for on-the-field production? No, it doesn't anymore, unfortunately.
Did you guys know that the Cardinals for 4 consecutive off seasons used a second-round pick on a wide receiver, and they have one capable. Now, Rondale Moore, we're all excited about. We haven't played football in 2 years. It's interesting. My podcasting brother, Blake Murphy, sent me a piece of information yesterday from, I believe it was Underdog Fantasy's Hayden Winks, and that Larry Fitzgerald, and these are, advanced metrics, so use them as you will, but he was one of the worst receivers against man coverage in the NFL last year. And then you watch his play, and he struggled, right? And Cliff Kingsbury's offense, say what you want about it, is built off of yards after catch. And that is not Larry's forte. I mean, he's a catch the ball, get down kind of player right now. And for all of the horizontal passing that they do in this offense, that can't support Larry Fitzgerald playing significant snaps for the Cardinals this year. And so what I would say to the fan base is that it's the perfect time to transition. They have a gluttony of options, albeit, not great. The Isabellas of the world. We'll see Rondale Moore, Christian Kirk in year 4. I love Christian Kirk. Christian Kirk is somebody, when he's on, is an impact player for them. But he also, I believe, ended the season, the last 6 games he played, with roughly 250 yards receiving. I mean, he disappears for long stretches, not of games, of the season. And so it's unfortunate that we're having this conversation, because if Kirk was a bona fide stud second-round pick, and Isabella had emerged as just giving you something, not even comparable to DK Metcalf, but something, I think we'd all be like, they're in a good place. Larry can ride off into the sunset. But I think a lot of the temptation of people bringing back Larry is the fact that there's so much unproven, ness of the group. And Alex, you mentioned AJ Green. It's like they felt like they had to bring in AJ Green because they were so mediocre at times at that position. And Isabella's inactive for a fourth of the season last year, and they just had to make him active in week 17 because Larry was out. So I just think that it's always difficult to move on from an icon, a legend within your franchise. And he is the Arizona Cardinals. He's the greatest player in franchise history. This was always going to be a difficult decision, especially when you consider, like, if the statistics had supported Larry playing another year and Larry walked away, that's easier for us to, come to terms with, goes out on his own terms. Larry did not play well last year. Larry Fitzgerald's been paid on average 8 figures for the last, half decade plus. And so it's a big time transition to say, okay, Larry, you're maybe the 4th or 5th best receiver on the roster, and we're going to pay you the vet minimum. I don't know how those conversations go, but I know this is a salary cap league. This is a make or break year for the Cardinals. You can't, and again, this is where fans push back, you can't give out charity contracts. Not in the NFL. This is not Major League Baseball where you have an unlimited salary cap and you can bring back icons and let them ride on the bench. I mean, the Cardinals have to win games this year. And with Larry Fitzgerald not playing special teams, right, the cap is already tight. They don't have a receiving tight end. Larry's not moving to tight end. They've invested 4 consecutive second-round picks on receiver, from Kirk to Hopkins, Isabella, Rondale Moore now, bringing in A.J. Green. They've turned over that position multiple times. It's like you gotta cut the cord at some point. I think the decision's already been made. Would I appreciate Fitzgerald releasing a couple sentence statement because he's not going to want the press conference? I would, because I think that, and again, this is my opinion, all this speculation with Fitz does not fit his I don't know, kind of personality and mantra over his, illustrious career, handing the ball off to the official, not celebrating, right? But now it's like the will he won't speculation just kind of lingering over the team right now. And maybe it's not, maybe the team knows, but like, I don't know what that's supposed to do. I don't know what that means. Like, why is that necessary? If he's going to play, then say he's coming back, but he's going to take some time off to get his body right until training camp. And if he's done playing, then he's done playing. Or if he wants to play for somebody else, let him play for somebody else. I don't know what this is supposed to accomplish right now.
It's tough. It's sobering. It's a conversation that I think a lot of us have been avoiding all offseason long because, the stats are there. We did watch it, unfold before our eyes each and every week last year. He only played 13 games. He was able to keep his catch streak going. But yeah, as far as his impact on the field, I mean, he's the opposite of the Yak Bros. He's the anti-Yak Bro. He's reliable to go out there and make the catch if it's in his general vicinity. But outside of that, especially in Cliff Kingsbury's offense, it's going to be tough. I don't know. I'm not ready, to say goodbye. I don't know. At the same time, it's just like when you look at what this team needs to accomplish and where they need to become, how important training camp's going to be and how important the preseason is going to be and how important it is to develop these young receivers. I don't know if it doesn't get in the way. I think that's a conversation we absolutely probably should have in the future here, because I don't know if we're going to have, the decision can come down at any moment now. I mean, we could get a press release from the Cardinals at any moment.
I just want to quickly say, they convinced AJ Green to come here because they told him he was going to get meaningful snaps. Like, Alex is right. He may not produce, but he's going to get opportunities to produce. Christian Kirk's in a contract year. He's moving to the slot. Like, he's getting valuable snaps, and you have to play Rondale Moore. So it's like, what's left?
Right.
And then Keyshawn Johnson deserves an opportunity to contribute after how he finished the season last year. And then you still got Isabella hanging around. So there's just not a place for him. In my opinion, there's just not a place for him.
Let's wrap up real quick. Question about the Arizona Cardinals safety group. Is it the best in the division? We're going to debate that before we get out of here, send you to the weekend. First, Alex, tell me about Rock Auto.
Yeah. RockAuto.com is pretty cool. I work from home now, so I don't like to leave when I don't have to, especially when it's 115 degrees outside. And RockAuto.com facilitates that for you. It's a family-owned business. They've been around for 20 years. You don't have to go to a chain storefront. And when Bo does that, he makes an ass out of himself and says, hey, I don't know where anything is. Can you help me? And there are people that laugh at him because he's a 37-year-old man and doesn't know his way around a chain storefront. And you could, replace him with me in that story because we're one and the same when it comes to that. RockAuto.com makes everything easy. Tail lamps, paint, carpet, whatever. RockAuto.com, it's at your fingertips. The prices are reliably low. The prices are the same for manufacturers and do-it-yourselfers, so you don't get upcharged just because you're not buying in bulk, which is great. Amazing selection, reliably low prices. Go to RockAuto.com, type Locked On in there, how did you hear about us box, so they know we sent you. Amazing selection, reliably low prices. All the parts your car will ever need, RockAuto.com. But I'm also hungry, Bo, and I have one left. I don't know what flavor of Built Bar I should buy next.
Are you're rationing your Built Bars? Is that what's going on?
I have to.
Well, you can save some cash when you go to BuiltBar.com. You can save 15% in your next order. Just use the promo code LOCKED15. And for the summer, for a limited time, they've got their really good flavors, orange and strawberry, to go along with their 9 flavors you can always rely upon: coconut, almond, cherry, raspberry, mint brownie, peanut butter brownie, double chocolate, and salted caramel. There's something for everyone, and you don't cut corners as far as nutrition. Each flavor has at least 17 grams of muscle packing protein, 130 calories, 4 grams of sugar, and just 4 grams of net carbs. Do it right now. Go to BuiltBar.com. Taste the best tasting protein bar on the market. Use the promo code, save some money, LOCKED15. You'll get 15% off your first order using the promo code LOCKED15 for 15% off at BuiltBar.com. All right, quick conversation here as we wrap things up here on Locked On Cardinals, part of your Locked On Podcast Network. Johnny Venerable from Revenge of the Birds. Make sure you're following along at Johnny Venerable. Follow his co-host, Blake Murphy. He's verified, just like Alex Clancy. They're having a little party. Did you guys get together? Was it just a two party for two? Did you guys go out to like Steak 44 and celebrate the new blue check marks?
You know what? Johnny's here. We can't really talk about it.
Wow. I'm not going to, Johnny, I'm going to tell you, as somebody who's been verified, it means absolute jack.
Yeah, because you got handed it to you before it mattered. You were given it as like a Christmas ornament before you earned it.
They were.
My time will come. I believe in my heart of hearts that my time will come. It's being reviewed. It's been reviewed for some time. So if you're listening, verification, Twitter, I'm available if you have any questions. My work is legitimate, as is Bo and Alex's. But no, in all seriousness, I'm happy for Alex. I'm happy for Blake. And yeah, it's all in good fun.
I don't think I would ever say like, "Hey, I'm happy for you. You got that blue check mark." I just couldn't. I don't know. It's nothing against. I know it's important to Alex, but I just don't care about the blue check mark that much. I feel silly saying that.
Yeah, it's not as much anymore. Like the first couple of days, I'm like, "Oh, this is sweet." This is sweet. Well, I'm just making you feel better. I'm making Johnny feel better. I'm trying to keep it in the family.
Are you telling your potential Tinder dates that you are verified on Twitter?
The first thing I say.
All right.
First thing I say that's my about me section.
What's
verified and vaccinated.
I'm kind of a big deal. All right, real quick. Arizona Cardinals safety room, is it the best in the division? Anybody have any thoughts on that?
Go ahead, Johnny.
Yeah, I think so. They have the best safety, so you already have to give them a leg up. I don't consider Jamal Adams a safety. He's an off-ball linebacker. He's a dollar linebacker. I think the safeties in San Francisco are solid. Tart's, former second rounder, right? Jimmy Ward's a former late first round pick. Those guys have hit the open market a couple times. They get modest 1 to 2 year deals by their current team. Budda Baker, if he were to hit the open market, would be courted by 31 other teams. He would be given an obscene amount of money. He changes games. Jaquiski Tartt and Jimmy Ward, I think, benefited greatly from the pressure from that front four, from that front seven 2 years ago. And both of them played average football last year. I think one or both were hurt. So I don't consider, and I also think, and I told you guys this off air, Jalen Thompson is on their level when he's healthy. I've seen enough of Jalen Thompson. He's entering year 3. He was hurt last year. He can give you what those guys give you. And again, the situation in Seattle, I don't think is worth monitoring because I think Jamal Adams is a box safety at best. Now, it's interesting. The LA Rams, I like Taylor Rapp. He was a second round pick in 2019. He's only getting better, but is he on Budda Baker's level? I think if you asked any casual NFL fan who has the best safety in the NFL, a lot of them would pick Arizona because of Budda Baker. Okay, Jordan Fuller is a good 6th-round pick a couple years ago for the Rams, but I just think that the impact of Budda supersedes the quantity of just solid safety play in the division. And again, Jamal Adams does not cover. He can't cover. Budda Baker now has a completely well-rounded game. While he doesn't intercept every pass, he had a couple picks last year for the first time in his NFL career. He can do tackle behind the line of scrimmage, can obviously sack the quarterback. I just think his presence, even when you throw somebody in like a Jalen Thompson, and I think Deontay Thompson is ascending as well, I think by the end of next season, assuming those guys stay healthy, they will have the unquestioned best safety group in the division.
It's interesting because we talk about the wide receiver groups, Bo, and it's kind of the same. I think Budda Baker is the best safety in the division, like DeAndre Hopkins is the best safety in the division, but I'd rather have DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett, just like I'd rather have Jamal Adams and Quandre Diggs. I mean, because listen, this is solely predicated upon the fact that Jalen Thompson is an injury concern. He has injury concerns. And I know that the COVID year was weird last year also, but although Budda Baker is there, I still would take Seattle and their 1-2 punch, regardless of what Jamal Adams can or can't do in coverage. I mean, he's a linebacker. I mean, what he does rushing the passer supersedes what Budda Baker does rushing the passer, even though Budda Baker is great at it, especially for his size, and he's one of the biggest hitting safeties. I mean, he's a Bob Sanders. He's a guy that's way too small to be able to hit that big. And, I mean, that's where I'm at. I would put them 1-2, Seattle, and then Cardinals at 2.
Seattle better be. I mean, what they've invested in Jamal Adams, I mean, as far as draft capital and what they're going to have to pay him, I mean, he better be the best safety. I mean, what he showed last year was he had to be their sack presence or just get their opposing quarterbacks off the spot. But yeah, I mean, I like the Arizona Cardinals as far as just their overall, what they can do, the different variety and how diverse their safety group can be. And they're about as deep as they get in the division. And they made sure that they're never going to experience what they did in Carolina last season, where they were just depleted the position, and it made Teddy Bridgewater look really, really good, which is unfortunate. Look, we're running long here. We've had a great week of shows. We appreciate everybody tuning in. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel. Subscribe to Apple Podcasts, wherever you find your podcasts. Follow Johnny Venerable on Twitter. Read his work, revengeofthebirds.com. Listen to him and Blake on the Revenge of the Birds pod. Follow Alex Clancy at Clancy Corner and follow me, BOBRACK. We'll be back with you on Monday. We'll be back with you on Tuesday. We're taking Monday off for the holiday. Have a great July 4th weekend. We'll talk to you guys next week.